Hi, I'm Cleo Wood, co-founder of CensHERship. Together with The Case for Her, we're delighted that you're interested in our brief for 2026's D&AD New Blood Awards. CensHERship is levelling the playing field for women's health content and voices across online platforms, particularly tackling the issue of social media censorship. The Case for Her is a blended finance investment portfolio addressing the key issues of women's health, menstruation, sexual health, and pleasure. Our brief calls on you to help us smash through taboos and outdated AI and algorithms to unlock the power of women's voices and medically accurate information, leading, we hope, to positive health and economic outcomes. So let's help close the gender health gap. Our brief is very much focused on exposing the bias that exists on social media platforms and more broadly, uncovering what the problems are with the algorithm and how we can help solve them. We understand very much that self-censorship on many different levels, whether that is mild or more severe, is prevalent and is a way that we have to navigate this issue currently, but in an ideal world we would not want to encourage this because we believe that women should be able to take ownership of the conversation and dialogue around their own bodies and health. So we would love entries to challenge social media norms and address the platforms. We would love for there to be an inviting tone. We don't want to turn this into a big fight. We would love to encourage dialogue with the social media platforms. So very much hoping to engage on that level. However, this issue is widespread, but it's under the radar. So we would absolutely love for entries to address societal awareness and to help invoke a change in cultural dialogue too. We think that it will be hard not to trigger censorship as part of the concept when we are talking about the issues that are on the table here in women's health. There have been instances of censorship of postnatal content, menopause content, period content, all things that should not be taboo. So from our perspective, we wouldn't worry if it triggers censorship. We don't need you to intentionally aim for this, but I think it adds to the newsworthiness and the kind of invitingness of the assignment if indeed there were to be a little bit of censorship or a little bit of controversy around the topic. Our work as CensHERship has documented a lot of the existing issues. We have hundreds of data points and experiences logged. There are other campaigning organisations who also do similar work in different geographical contexts and in a different manner to us, and they also have a lot of data points. So for us, whilst we would love to gather more experiences to really drill down and double down onto the depth and the breadth of the issue, we would more focus on finding a solution. Like, how do we make this issue better? How do we make this problem go away? How do we introduce a bias-free way of looking at women's health online? I think those three tones are interrelated. Educational and cultural go hand in hand. I think when you are talking about a topic that crosses educational and cultural lines, these are the issues that are being censored are around health, which we don't get enough education about as women, as people in general, but as women, I would say more so. Culturally, these topics are taboo, and that is part of the reason that we don't get enough education around these topics. So I think those two are intertwined, so they should be treated the same. I think once you educate and change cultural perception, then a call to action is inherent within that dialogue. So perhaps you could combine all three. We are agnostic about whether it should skew one way or another. We would say that we see this happening most on Meta, so Instagram and Facebook. However, it happens across all platforms, including TikTok, Snapchat, and places like that. We also see this in a slightly less overt way in terms of safe search on Google, which incorrectly labels certain sites as high risk or explicit. So it is happening across the board. Has any campaign actually shown to have made impact? We haven't seen much movement so far. We have done a lot of research, we have done a lot of awareness raising. Our sister campaigns have also done so in different geographies, so we are covered globally. But the platforms are yet to come to the table to make any significant changes in order to minimise the impact of bias against women. We have gathered a lot of unfair and highly newsworthy experiences. We have used those in a sensitive and sensible way. We are not necessarily targeting a kind of highly exploitative and tabloid manner in which to talk about these things. As creatives, as designers who are fresh in their field, this is something that you will need to navigate in your careers, and I think is a really good question for you to be posing yourselves in terms of ethical soundness of your own projects. So I'm going to leave that with you. I think this harks back to the previous question. We have done a lot of uncovering of the problem, a lot of research to indicate the depth and breadth of the issue of social media censorship, and we have raised a lot of media awareness around it. There is more to be done, but what we lack at the moment is a clear path forward and more solutions-based activity. That is our focus for 2026. We would love you to contribute to that too. Do you understand it? Have you read up about us? Do you understand our stats and our research? Have you experienced this yourself? That isn't necessary for you to do well in the competition. However, I think the level of understanding and depth of research into the issue and how it impacts everyday lives is key. That's not really for me to tell you, I don't think. So again, we are very excited to explore new and novel and creative ideas where we could actually take this issue forward, be heard, and help to build solutions. So something practical, if it's going to be a tool or an app or something that we can actually put into place, yeah, absolutely needs to be kind of realistic in the way that we kind of look at it and whether it can be adopted, because it's all very well having a nice idea, but if it can't actually be used, then is it really of any use to us? I think here educating yourself is key. I know that's not always easy, but whether you are male or female or whatever kind of wherever you find yourself across the gender scale, it's really important to understand the conversations from the perspective of those going through them. And that is an issue if you don't take that into account when you are working on your brief. So yes, these issues are sensitive. No, you may not have dealt with them yourselves, but if you can understand from an ally's perspective how they impact people, then that's really key. I think that the behaviour change we are trying to bring about is largely across platforms. I would say that if we are talking about any behaviour change for the public, that it is likely to be education around whether topics are taboo and acceptable or not. So those go hand in hand with a public conversation about whether this is an issue or not. If we can make behaviour change within those working in tech and those working in the kind of policy making areas and those in positions of power, then great. But on a mass scale, I think it's about conversation. I think this depends on whether we are highlighting the issue or trying to invoke change. Invoking change is quite hard unless you get a call to action that actually underlines how important the issue is and demonstrates why it's a problem. So observation, I guess, leads to awareness, but participation leads to change. We would love that. As I say, I've answered this a little bit in some of the other questions. We would love for there to be more data points, more experiences gathered. Obviously, all of this adds weight and credibility and authority to the research that we have already done. So yes, absolutely, that is something that we are interested in. We see a lot of examples across all women's health topics, so there is no topic that we would advise steering clear of. We also think that even though these topics have been covered extensively, it hasn't led to change so far. So if we double down on that conversation, then that can still only be a positive thing. What do you think will be most effective? I have answered this question a little bit in previous answers earlier in the video, so I think this is for you to decide. Again, it is about raising awareness, but if we raise awareness but can't do anything about it, where does that leave us?